Now, regarding a journey to the west, we previously discussed the Vajrasattva statue, the crystal Vajra, and the sole heir of the doctrine Tantra. These three are called the three most of the Buddha Dharma in the future, if these three are in the monastery. Right now we have a Vajrasattva statue. In the future, if we have them, a crystal Vajra 1 cubit high. Of course, if it's too tall, taller than Vajrasattva, it might not look good, and a 4-inch sole heir of the doctrine Tantra, written in gold ink. These three are called the most supreme of the Buddha Dharma. These three should be placed in a glass case. If they're placed in the monastery, in the future, this auspicious connection is still very important. We'll see about this later. Our statue of thousand-armed Avalokiteshvara should have already been sent over. When we were teaching the Sutra of the Jeweled King, everyone made aspirations then. But this time, we don't need to request them and don't need to collect money for them. Otherwise, if we can't get them, that wouldn't be good. When the time comes, if needed, we'll discuss it. For now, don't collect any money. Otherwise, if we can't deliver its designated funds, and we wouldn't dare use it for other purposes that would be quite troublesome. For now, just take note of it. Today we'll continue with His Holiness's teaching from the evening of the 18th. His Holiness gave one session, but it may take us several evenings to cover. Also, according to the Sutrayana teaching, the Buddha Dharma will go through 4 stages of duration: the period of fruition, the period of accomplishment, the period of transmission, and the period of symbolic representation. The first 2 periods have already come and gone. During the period of fruition, many attained the state of Arhat. During the period of accomplishment, many attained realization through practice. Now, we are in the middle of the period of transmission. This will be explained further later, during which time, besides teaching and listening to the Dharma, there is barely any other form of practice more profound in the Sutrayana tradition, because many, through this immediately attaining accomplishment through Sutrayana, this has become very rare. If we say it has nearly disappeared, there's relatively little. Compared to the past, compared to the period of fruition and accomplishment, it's relatively less. Generally speaking, the blessing of sutras keeps declining day by day, now gradually declining. This is true if it is observed with an unbiased view. In the past, Guru Rinpoche and the great Pandita Vimalamitra, these two not only in India travelled across the entire land of India and then came to the land of Tibet. As mentioned the other day, there's a saying that Vimalamitra came 3 times. Regarding Guru Padmasambhava, as mentioned the other day, he came to Tibet in 770 CE. According to the history of Buddhism by Sumpa, some things may be repeated, sometimes they'll be useful later. But even so, the great perfection was unable to flourish widely at that time. What's meant by widely should refer to geographical scope, because India was relatively small then, in Tibet, Nepal, probably just these few places. But now throughout the world, in 30 to 40 countries, there are various accounts. From the current era, just from Tibet alone, many lamas have gone abroad giving empowerments and teachings abroad. Indeed, in Tibetan areas in the 1960s, a group of great masters through Bhutan, through Sikkim, through Nepal, through India, then went to various countries around the world, including Europe, America, and Southeast Asia. They went to many countries. And in this way, later these masters gave empowerments and teachings in other places. The scope has indeed expanded much more than before. Take the example of America, the most powerful nation in the world. The great perfection has become prevalent in this land. Indeed, America has many centers with numerous Nyingma centers. This is a sign that the blessing of this practice has become more and more powerful. One could say it this way: at that time, America could be considered, though it still is now, including in science and technology, economy in these aspects, it can be called a powerful nation, especially in the 1990s, even more so. Now they may have declined somewhat, but overall, many countries now may be, generally speaking, in various aspects, may not necessarily compare. If you observe people here today, this should refer to faith. You can also realize the blessing of Dzogchen. Based on your attitude and mentality, I could infer that you must have devotion to the Buddha Dharma in general, and special faith in Tibetan Buddhism. In particular, you must have vivid conviction and interest in the Great Perfection. Westerners still have great faith in the Great Perfection and faith in Tibetan Buddhism as well. This is already an apparent sign that you can receive the blessing of the Great Perfection in your mind streams. So obviously you are suitable Dharma vessels of the great perfection. Do you agree with me? At that time, His Holiness asked these people in Hawaii, indeed. Hawaii is, I feel that the faith of the people there is very good, regardless of where they're from or what ethnicity. This kind of faith, their faith in the great perfection, is also particularly strong. His Holiness also spoke like this at that time. But I think our Dharma friends in Han region actually also have great faith in the great perfection, didn't I mention the other day? Now, when giving empowerments, we must keep it confidential. Otherwise, if we don't keep it confidential, there are too many people. So we also, whether it's empowerments or teaching, tantric teachings, we have no choice. We're not being mean-spirited, but indeed, in today's world, in the current climate, we have no choice. Otherwise, our small-scale provisions would have no way to be used smoothly, so we can only do it this way, if we now, including through the internet. Through this means how many people who want to receive it. There are especially many those who want empowerments, who want pith instructions, not to mention the great perfection, even the commentary on valid cognition. There are many who want to listen, but for those of us here who hear it often, it doesn't matter. I'm here, I'll definitely hear it, just like the woman in Lhasa who has never seen the Jowo Buddha statue. She herself doesn't care, but if it's someone else, it seems that in their lifetime, having heard 1 or 2 sessions, I often say this, 20 years ago I heard 1 session in your presence. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I heard 1 session in your presence. I also heard 1 session before another great master. So for their lifetime, hearing 1 session is very precious, very luxurious, one could say. But for us, it seems that hearing 1 session, not to mention hearing 100 sessions, I'm so amazing, I still attend teachings. They have this kind of attitude toward themselves. Actually, no matter what, for those who seek the great perfection, this is still a sign of faith. As soon as they hear there's some great perfection teaching, some people ride motorcycles in the middle of the night, crossing mountains and rivers. Then, as the saying goes, each showing their own prowess. Some spend money, some display miraculous powers to fly over, some use various channels. Of course, we need to say in the future now regarding riding motorcycles and such, try not to do this. Otherwise, for safety reasons, if in the future there are some unfavorable reports, it wouldn't be good for anyone. We have also reported to relevant government officials in advance about the future. Otherwise, there are many unsafe factors, various kinds of unfavorable factors, so we must be careful about this. As long as everyone is willing to listen, even if their practice may not be that good, but if they're willing to receive this teaching, this is also a sign of faith which is very good. In the tiny snowland of Tibet, there is little knowledge about modern science and the like. They're not particularly knowledgeable, and there are not many erudite scholars. Those with worldly knowledge may not be very many either. However, due to the prevalence of the profound great perfection that carries great blessing in Tibetan areas, a great number of Tibetan lamas have been spreading the Dharma in various countries and regions across the world, and especially the great perfection Tibetan Buddhism. Wherever it goes, people generally have faith, of course not all of them. Now, some wearing red robes before various kinds of people displaying various behaviors and actions. Others also disparage Tibetan Buddhism. Such phenomena also exist. Among some Hollywood people taking their shawls and starting to dance, there are also many who are dissatisfied with Tibetan Buddhism, but overall, indeed everyone, because of Tibetan Buddhism, everyone rejoices the great perfection like this. So just from this point, you can see that the Mahayana teachings, and especially the great perfection, are of inconceivable blessing and merit. This should be known. Again, some of you may wonder, yes, in the past, the yogis of the great perfection all flew to the land of the Vidyadharas without leaving their physical bodies behind. They accomplished rainbow bodies and now dwell in pure lands. Basically, they all achieved rainbow body. But why did the great perfection masters of the present day, such as Dudjom Rinpoche and Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche and other such masters, leave their physical bodies behind without transforming them into light? Why is this? Some may wonder, why did we have so many rainbow body achievers before, but now there are so few? Moreover, particularly authoritative figures like Dudjom Rinpoche and Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche are truly great yogis of the great perfection. Why didn't they achieve rainbow body? His Holiness answered, In fact, there are two reasons to explain why their bodies did not transform completely into rainbow light. One important reason is that they could have transformed their bodies into rainbow light, but they chose to leave their bodies in the world but left them behind as an object of homage for fortunate beings to generate faith. Dudjom Rinpoche's remains should still exist. I also mentioned some in Recollection of the Time Gone By. We went to pay homage before. In other words, if their entire body could most benefit sentient beings, they would leave their entire body in this world. If leaving only hair and nails would most benefit sentient beings, they would dissolve into rainbow light except for their hair and nails. Nowadays, some lamas have left their nails and hair upon nirvana, and some have left their entire bodies. Whatever the case, you should understand they chose to do so because their remains would evoke beings' faith and be an object of homage which beings can make prostration to and circumambulate around. As a result, those beings would avoid falling into the lower realms. For example, the physical body of the sixth patriarch, and at Mount Juhua, there are several preserved bodies. In the past we went there, but our time was quite short. But Mount Juhua indeed has many bodhisattvas whose bodies remain intact. Mount Juhua is a place where, when you arrive, there are many people, including Dharma friends, who often tell stories of these bodhisattvas in physical form. There are many such stories. Including in modern times, there are also stories of bodhisattvas whose bodies remain. In the past, whenever something is this wondrous. So leaving the physical body is very meaningful. Later it can be used for life liberation and various other purposes. Another reason is that if a lama has many disciples who have grave negative karma or keep impure samaya, the lama would be contaminated to the point that the body could not completely dissolve into rainbow light. This could happen too. The second reason is being affected by disciples. Especially when the great perfection is widely transmitted, there are pure and impure disciples, all kinds of people. In the end, although the master could have achieved a rainbow body, it becomes impossible, especially perhaps after Longchenpa, when the great perfection was widely transmitted. This is also one of the reasons. You may ask, what is the difference between intentionally leaving the body in this world and not being able to dissolve the body into rainbow light? What is the difference between these two? His Holiness also explains here. Take Dudjom Rinpoche and Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche as examples. Actually, in their case, they would not be unable to transform into light due to being contaminated by broken samayas. Why is this? In the case of Dudjom Rinpoche was Padmasambhava himself appearing in this world in the form of a human being. That is to say, he was an emanation. Even if the entire world had been full of samaya breakers, they could not hinder his body from dissolving into rainbow light. In Jigme Rinpoche's Mountain Dharma, it also says that if the master is truly a great accomplished one, then samaya breakers cannot harm him, nor can they harm the Dharma center. Similarly, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche was the emanation of King Trisong Detsen. King Trisong Detsen at that time, in the presence of Guru Padmasambhava, was already a fully accomplished master. Moreover, some of his tantric writings are particularly remarkable. Although King Trisong Detsen appeared as a king, in reality he was a great disciple of Guru Padmasambhava, with realization equal to the Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal. So he is the same. Even if all sentient beings in the whole world had broken their samaya, they could not obstruct a great master like him from dissolving into rainbow light. So these two great masters like Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche should be recognized great accomplished ones, as His Holiness said. They would not be harmed or contaminated by broken samayas. As you can see, the remains of these two great masters were left and preserved only to serve as objects of worship, offerings and circumambulation for you and other devotees. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche passed into nirvana in 1991. He apparently did not leave an intact physical body. Later he was cremated. At the time of cremation, it is said that the body shrank. This is also mentioned in his biography. In Bhutan or somewhere in 1991, Dudjom Rinpoche passed away in 1987 during the 1980s. However, for ordinary practitioners or beginners like us, in order to accomplish the rainbow body through practicing and realizing the great perfection, we must scrutinize carefully when choosing disciples. His Holiness very humbly says that if we want to achieve rainbow body, many masters may be unwilling to transmit the great perfection teachings. This is also related because it affects their accomplishment. Among their disciples there are all kinds of people, and it's impossible for all of them to be pure. So some people who particularly guard their samaya and their practice realization generally will not transmit these teachings so widely throughout their entire lives. Among His Holiness's disciples as well, many people, including some great Khenpos, have said that without obtaining His Holiness's definite permission, they will temporarily not transmit the great perfection teachings. Other tantric teachings can be transmitted. This has always been the case. Otherwise, since the ordinary body is in itself the aggregate of impurity and the source of suffering, if disciples violate samaya, it is bound to obstruct us from achieving the rainbow body. This is what His Holiness says. As a result, the physical body would have to remain. For every one of you present, although I am unable to examine your mind streams, for me, someone like me, if I am not careful and cautious in choosing disciples, it is certain that I would lose the chance to attain the rainbow body. His Holiness himself is very humble. Actually, in my feeling, His Holiness Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche and Dudjom Rinpoche are all truly masters of the great perfection, who can be called patriarchs of a generation. They should have the same level of realization. Even if there are samaya breakers among their disciples, it would not obstruct them. However, His Holiness also did not achieve rainbow body. It's just that it was commonly recognized and written in many biographies that His Holiness's body shrank significantly. This is true. When we saw it at the time, because toward the end his 5-panel hat fell off completely. This was witnessed by everyone. So there was shrinkage but no rainbow body achievement. It is said that if someone like him did not select disciples very carefully, they would be contaminated by the negative energy of disciples who broke their samayas, so it is difficult to achieve rainbow body. Above is a brief introduction to the attributes of the great perfection. Next, the blessing of the great perfection. Just by hearing teachings on the great perfection, even if you do not practice diligently, Buddhahood will be attained in no more than 7 lifetimes. Once receiving empowerment and instruction, as long as wrong views toward your Lama, including disparagement, do not occur, and also withdrawing your faith does not occur, then liberation will certainly occur in the bardo just after this life. Everyone should also remember this. If you have received from your master the Dzogchen empowerment and Dzogchen instruction, and you haven't practiced much, but you haven't developed wrong views toward your master and haven't slandered them, and haven't lost faith in the Dharma, then you will definitely attain liberation in the bardo. After receiving empowerment and instruction in the great perfection, if you understand the meaning and apply that through earnest practice, if faith is strong, then Buddhahood can be realized within 6 months. If faith is middling, Buddhahood will occur within 7 years, and even if faith is weak, Buddhahood will be attained in no less than 12 years. For practitioners, although you have received Dzogchen empowerment and instruction, if you do not have the chance to practice, as long as pure samaya is maintained, as mentioned earlier, not developing wrong views toward the Lama, not slandering, and not losing faith in the Dharma, and your body always touches a text of the great perfection, liberation will come about soon. Because if you don't practice, for example, if we wear liberation upon wearing items, before death, we don't have conflicts with Vajra brothers and sisters, we don't have conflicts with the Guru, and we practice a little bit with our whole heart, then we will definitely attain liberation. If a dying sentient being hears the teachings of the great perfection, then liberation will come to pass in not too long of a time thereafter. Even if a text of the great perfection is kept close to your pillow and prostrations, circumambulation, or butter lamp offerings are presented to this text, then liberation will not be far away. So generally, those of us who have received empowerment will keep the Guru's heart essence or great perfection liberation upon contact items. Someone recites it for them or places it around them, and in this way they will definitely attain liberation. Why is the great perfection the summit of all vehicles? The great perfection transcends all 8 vehicles because anyone who sees, hears, remembers, or touches a text on this teaching will swiftly achieve Buddhahood. This is the reason the great perfection is called liberation upon hearing and contact. This is so inconceivable. So from now on, as long as we do not hold wrong views toward the teaching or the teacher and never slander them, His Holiness mentions this twice, before and after. This is very important. Buddhahood will soon be reached, and samsara that is full of suffering and the causes of suffering will have been traversed. At that time, both body and mind will be free from all forms of suffering. Wouldn't you like it? Everyone is smiling. On page 54, there is a wonderful photo of His Holiness taken at that time. The photos we selected here are all photos taken locally. So these famous photos of His Holiness, actually at that time in the West, His Holiness's state of mind at certain times seemed relatively good in all respects, so what was captured might also have some special feeling. Including the video from that day, if any of you watch it, I hope the Dharma teacher will preserve it well and let them watch it repeatedly, as there may be an uncommon blessing. I hope that our remembrance of the Guru is not done in some other way, just holding a Dharma assembly and giving out envelopes. It's not like that. It should be that this year, from the bottom of our hearts, His Holiness was someone truly remarkable. Although he left us 20 years ago, he has not left anyone's side. Wherever there is water, there is the reflection of the moon. Each of us should have His Holiness's blessing. Each of us has His Holiness's care. Whether you met him before or not, those of us who have seen his books, seen his photos, seen his videos, will all receive His Holiness's true care. Okay.
Sonandai Tamse Progaya Tonani Dharma Pasi Jirgana Jirano Chupai Chupun Solen Droa Droa
Bandrangara Badna Sodargye Bandrangara Badna Sodargye Bandrangara Badna Sodargye